Greetings, family. Peace and love to you and yours. This is Guru, and thanks for visiting my channel. Family, this video is about a campus that's stunned by a racist comment on a student's Instagram post. Well, I don't know why the school is stunned, because after all, we've seen numerous accounts of racist students saying racist comments about black people in particular. This is no exception. But I want to take a moment out and use this as a teachable moment before I get into the video. I will read, however, the caption that's underneath this post here. It says that a racist joke posted by a Northern California high school student has gone viral. The post has been shared thousands of times on Twitter, and the girl's peers are sounding off. Well, that's very true. What the caption actually reads is kind of blurry here, but the caption of the post actually reads, sorry about that, well, why can't black people get a PhD? The answer is they can't get past their masters. And then it has a hashtag image and hashtag Blue Lives Matter. So again, and I apologize the way I read it, but I'll read it one more time as well. Why can't black people get a PhD? Because they can't get past their masters. They are trying to be funny. As we've discussed before, there's nothing funny about racist or racism. There's nothing funny about it at all. As a matter of fact, a lot of atrocities happened due to things they thought were funny that started off funny at first to them until it turned violent. And so that's why this is very bad and vile behavior, and it should be condemned every time. About that teachable moment, there's a book titled A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask by Dr. Claude Anderson. I spoke about this book before. I'm in the process of finishing the book. Nonetheless, there is a question, which is question number 40, which asks the question, why was it a criminal offense to teach blacks to read and write? I think that's important to discuss right now, just to go over this so that we understand about this concept of these white racist children of their parents who constantly are doing these type of racist antics on school campuses, colleges, and universities across America. Again, in institutions that you would think these people would be using their brains to think on a much higher level, a much higher frequency. But when we're dealing with, well, a majority of racist individuals, this is what you get. But nonetheless, I'm going to get into the meat of this lesson that we could learn from. The European colonists opposed educating black people because they knew that educated blacks, like educated whites, would not tolerate being enslaved, brutalized, or exploited. An educated person would fight back and revolt. Whites knew that the best way to protect their financial investment and their lives was to impose ignorance on blacks. They therefore instituted public policies that stipulated that any white person caught teaching a black person to read and write would be fined $100 and suffer 39 lashes with a whip. There are numerous recorded instances where blacks were lynched for carrying a book or newspaper, especially in the South. Teaching people to read and write was a crime only when it applied to educating blacks. Schools were established and operated for immigrants and American Indians, making blacks the only people who, for centuries, were subjugated to imposed ignorance. In other words, this system was set up as a design. It was a design Ignorance by design, and it was only imposed on black people. So when you racist white students say things of this nature and you think it's funny, understand the history of what your parents and your grandparents, your ancestors, what they did to black people. But I digress. Let me continue. The last thing white America, and especially the South, needed were black slaves capable of reading, writing, and challenging the nation's socioeconomic system. Whites in the North harbored the same fears as their Southern counterparts, and education for the majority of blacks in this country was nearly non-existent as a matter of practice. The law was clear. It was illegal to teach a slave to read and write. So you see again your antics and your humor towards black people and our education. It's not so funny when you listen to your own history. But I digress. Prevailing sentiment in the South was that whites had the responsibility to take every measure possible to ensure that no light ever entered the brain of a black person. Your ancestors worked hard at making sure that black people remained dumb, stupid, and ignorant. That was by design. So following World War II in the late 1940s, in southern states, it was normal for black teachers to be insulted and beaten and to have their schools burned down. There were instances in which blacks traveling in southern states were beaten and even lynched for just reading a northern black newspaper, which was considered contraband. The Ku Klux Klan, America's premier white supremacist organization, was the anti-reading enforcer. Klansmen were assigned to monitor trains and bus stations, watching to find black porters and travelers who were reading. They confiscated any black newspapers they found, even though many Klan members were uneducated and most could not read. They knew enough to believe that educated and informed blacks were a greater threat to white society and the Southern culture than uneducated blacks. So you see, Becky, your ancestors knew quite well to keep black people dumb and stupid and ignorant by design. You guys set up a system that does this to black people, and it's by design. It's really a criminal activity if you really think about it. All things being equal, that's not equal. That is targeting a specific group of people and putting them, subjecting them to ignorance on purpose. That's a criminal activity if you ask me. Nonetheless, you make jokes about why black people can't get a PhD, and you say it's because we can't get past their masters. Haha, very funny. Especially considering the fact that by design, people who look like you, Becky, imposed restrictions and policies in place so that black people couldn't get a PhD, much less a master's, bachelor's, diploma, or a decent education, period. See how funny your joke is? So let me get to the video itself.
Post on Instagram a picture of two girls in high school Letterman jackets, and beneath it a racially insensitive comment about blacks and education.
that was actually like posted.
The racist comment is so offensive, we decided not to repeat it. Fellow students' reactions speak for themselves.
In a way, it makes our school look bad, and it makes like the students that go here look bad. And it's sad to see that, and it's sad that it's at my school too.
The post was shared with Fox 40 by numerous sources. Students say the high school junior behind the post first shared it last week, then after receiving backlash, changed the post to something less offensive.
She apologized for it, but I still think like you shouldn't apologize for something that you know it was wrong in the first place to post it.
The Turlock Unified School District released a statement saying they are aware of what they call the disturbing social media post and they are investigating. Students we spoke to feel the student needs to be punished.
How do you think the school should address it, the school district? Suspension.
They would like to see educators address the post and teach students about tolerance.
Just to be talked to in general, like get it straight. That it's not right to be posting things like that. Like, people do need to be considerate of others.
In Turlock, Kay Seed, Fox 40 News.
So the last part of this commentary I just wanted to point out is how in the picture here you see these two girls here, and you can clearly see on the left side the girl is very white. She is very, very white if you look at her legs and her hands, while the other girl is very light skin. She could be Mexican white, meaning, you know, the type of Hispanic who, you know, they claim that they're white and whatnot. But nonetheless, the reason why I bring this up is because if you notice in the interview when they were interviewing the girls from the school, they only focused on girls who happen to be Latina, who happen to be Hispanic, who happen to be Mexican American young girls. They didn't ask any of the white girls at all, as if to disassociate white people from this racist act. And I clearly want to point out that the girl on the left, her legs are awfully white, same with her hands, and I believe that when they expose this, that we're going to find out exactly who these girls were, and then we're going to realize that yes, one of the girls is a white girl, but nonetheless, when they interviewed the girls at the school, they only focused on girls who were of Mexican descent. I didn't find that unusual. I found it suspicious, of course, but just wanted to point that out. And then I think there was another point, but I forgot it at the moment, so look, it's going to have to just stay out. Thanks a lot for hanging in there, watching this video. Peace and love to you and yours. We'll see you in the next video. Exposing them always. Peace out.